We analyzed over 62 billion views to understand exactly what makes a video go viral on YouTube. The data came from over 300,000 viral videos across 50,000 plus channels with over 300 data points per video. And what we found completely challenges what most creators think they know about the algorithm. This report cost us over $10,000 to create, so if you want to know how small creators are actually winning with the YouTube algorithm in 2026, then check this out. First, the biggest question creators ask is how long should my videos be? Over 50% of the videos we studied were under 15 minutes long. However, we found that the sweet spot for video performance was between 18 and 24 minutes long. And this actually makes sense when you think about it. See, super long videos, let's say 30 minutes plus or even an hour long, are really asking a lot of a viewer when they see it on their YouTube homepage. Most people don't want to just sit down and watch like an hour-long YouTube video. It feels like a really big commitment. Contrast that with a shorter video that's maybe 15 minutes long, 10 minutes long, 5 minutes long. That seems much easier to click on. However, longer videos on YouTube generate more watch time, which encourages the YouTube algorithm to push them out more. For example, a video that is 20 minutes long is going to get way more watch time than a video that has 5 minutes. So 18 to 24 minutes becomes a nice sweet spot for the algorithm because the videos aren't too long that viewers aren't going to click on them, but they're still long enough to generate a lot more watch time than a shorter video. However, when we break down the optimal video length by niche, the results actually differ quite drastically. For example, gaming sits around 15 to 30 minutes, whereas DIY goes up from like 30 to 45 minutes long as the optimal length. So pause the video, check out this graph, and figure out where your niche is. Next, we looked at what the optimal YouTube title looks like. Overall, we found that shorter titles get more views than longer ones. Our data showed us that titles under 30 characters long get 60% more views than titles over 70 characters long. Basically, as you add more characters to your title, performance drops off. Now, why is this? Well, in general, a shorter title is easier and quicker for a viewer to understand and read, which allows them to click faster instead of scrolling away. At the same time, titles over 60 or 70 characters actually get cut off most of the time on the YouTube homepage, which makes it even harder for viewers to click. Now, this doesn't mean that you should just make your titles 30 characters every single time, because chances are you might lose some readability and understandability if you do this. So instead, you should simply aim to condense your titles to be as short as they can, with them still being understandable. As long as you're under 60 characters most of the time, you should be fine. What's really interesting though is things get even more nuanced when we separate educational from entertainment titles. As you add characters and words to entertainment titles, the performance drop-off is more obvious, whereas educational titles tend to be more forgiving. See, with entertainment-based videos, every single word in a title adds friction and reduces the emotional impulse that someone needs to click on the video. Whereas with educational videos, they're usually watched with more intent. Like generally, if an educational video is promising to teach you something, you already want to learn that thing. And if there's, 55 characters, 56, 60 characters, and you can still kind of figure out what's going on, like you'll probably still click on it, which is super interesting. Next, after titles, we looked at what the most optimal YouTube thumbnail looks like. First off, most creators ask, should I show my face in my thumbnails? The answer is, it depends. Overall, faces in thumbnails made videos perform worse. However, when we look at this on a niche by niche basis, some niches actually see a performance increase when you include a face, and others are more neutral. For example, in finance, thumbnails with faces perform 36% better than those without a face, whereas in gaming, they actually perform 3% worse with a face. And this makes sense too. For example, in finance, you generally want to trust the person that's giving you information, and by showing a face, you offer more credibility, prove that it's a human, and just make it easier for viewers to click. Whereas with gaming, the highlight is not the creator or the face that the creator is making, the highlight is actually the gameplay or whatever the creator is doing. So in general, niches that benefit from building trust, like most educational niches, generally will benefit with a face, whereas content-driven niches, for example, like DIY or gaming, are actually going to benefit from not including a face, or it may just not matter if you add a face or not. It's kind of up to you. Feel free to pause the video here. And of course, you can always just test this yourself. With some thumbnails you choose show your face, whereas others will not show your face, and figure out what performs best. The next thing we looked at with thumbnails is whether or not you should include text. In our study, about 84% of thumbnails included text, yet those that did include text actually performed 18% worse on average. The reason for this is a lot of times text will compete with the title, clutter up the image, and increase the time it takes for viewers to understand and quickly click on a thumbnail. However, this doesn't mean you should just ditch text entirely, because sometimes it can be beneficial. And we found that if you're going to use text, it should be under 10 characters and take up less than 10% of the screen. After text, the next thumbnail factor we looked at is thumbnail brightness. Across the board, brighter thumbnails perform better than dark ones. The reason is 80% or more of YouTube viewers are on YouTube dark mode, and as a result, dark thumbnails don't pop out as much and are harder for viewers to click on. After title length, we looked at whether or not creators should add numbers numbers to their titles. In our study, about 35% of videos had titles with numbers in them, yet those with numbers actually got 11% fewer views on average. My theory here is that numbers in titles signal things like structure, lists, explainers, whereas not including them allows creators to focus more on like an emotional pull for viewers to click, which is a lot stronger than one that is logical. This isn't to say you should never use numbers, but just be very careful about how you are using them, especially if you're doing like an entertainment-based video where the click is definitely going to come from an emotional standpoint. You should probably avoid using numbers if you can. Next, we looked at what emotions perform best in YouTube titles. We categorized titles with AI into 9 different emotional buckets, and the top 3 emotions that drove the most clicks were humor, anger, and controversy. These emotions tend to just be very strong and demand an emotional imbalance that viewers basically have to resolve by clicking. So what does this mean for you? It doesn't necessarily mean that you should just use these 3 emotions by default and try and fit your video to this mold, but in general, your title should be driven to trigger an emotional response and not just explain your video if you want to get more views. After title emotion, we found that the sentiment of titles actually matters more than most creators think as well. We used AI to categorize all the videos into neutral, positive, and negative data sets, and around 67% of the videos in the dataset were neutral, yet negative titles consistently outperform them on average. This is because negatively framing your titles creates tension and an imbalance that viewers again have to click to resolve. For more examples of positive, neutral, and negative sentimental titles, just click the first link in the description and I'll send the data report to you for free. Finally, our entire report compounded into one of the biggest decisions that creators have to make, which is your niche. We were able to map out literally every single major YouTube niche onto a graph and figure out what niches are the easiest to blow up and offer the quickest path to virality. And if you want to find out what we learned, then check out this where I break it down.